Yes! yes. Oh, man. Welcome to Dan Talks Football. I apologize for not being on last week. My internet cables got chewed up by a squirrel, evil squirrel. So, I apologize about that. Man, I'm so glad to be here today. Very glad to be here today. I will be doing the Chiefs play-by-play tomorrow live. So I encourage you, if you're watching the Chiefs-Jaguars game, to mute the TV, turn on YouTube, and watch me do play-by-play, and also join along. Special treat today. I got action on one game out of the four. Put action on, and I strongly suggest you put action on this game. I got one game that really stands out that I strongly suggest you put action on. I kind of want to start off. I want to talk about some of these coordinators that got fired. A few surprised me, a few didn't. I kind of want to talk about that. And, of course, anything you want to talk about, we will talk about. All questions are answered. And, of course, anything goes. So, man, I'm glad everybody's here. James, yes. I wish we could have talked last week and talked about the big Lions win. Little history. 1999, the Kansas City Chiefs were, I believe they were 9-6. Last game of the season against the Raiders. It was John Gruden's first year. He brings with him Rich Gannon, and they had a terrible team. They were 4-11, 5-10, something like that. Anyway, Chiefs get up early, 14-0. Gannon throws a pick six after a score 7-0. Chiefs win. They win the West. They go into the playoffs. The Raiders come back, win the game in overtime. It was a shootout. Great game, 41-38. The Raiders winning that game, a divisional game, knocking a team out of playoffs, just like the Lions did to Green Bay, propelled the Raiders for the next 3 years to be the dominant team in the division and one of the dominant teams in the AFC. They ended up being the number one seed in 2000. They got knocked out of the AFC championship game by the Ravens. Tony Siragusa separated Rich Gannon's shoulder first quarter of the game, so that game was over. Next year was the tuck rule. Then John Gruden, of course, was fired, and the Raiders went downhill. But that first win in a losing season really propelled them. And I think that's kind of what you're going to see. I had it pulled up, but I cut it off because the ad was playing, and I was looking at the Lions draft picks, and I do know that they have their second round pick is pick 59. So you have 4 picks in the top 60. You don't have a fourth round pick, but you have a third round pick. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do, because you could potentially get 2 to 3 starters and some depth in this draft, or you may want to use these picks for a quarterback. And if you are going to take a quarterback, this is the year to do it, because you're not going to have this type of draft capital. You're not going to have the 6th overall pick next year. So if you are going to take a quarterback, it's this year, and you have enough trade capital. It wouldn't surprise me if the Lions said, "Hey, look, we're going to give up both first round picks and maybe next year's number one to Chicago, and we're going to get our quarterback this year, and then we'll use our 2 second-round picks to bolster the team." It wouldn't surprise me if they sat at 6 and took whoever's available. So wouldn't surprise me, man. So you should be very, very happy. Fear us. The Lions win the division. Okay. Slow down. I just bumped you guys up. Now let's put the brakes on. I mean, you have one team in your division that won 13 games. You still have, as of right now, Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Now, if he leaves, then I would say Minnesota is a very interesting team, because they got a lot of weird offseason decisions. And let's start there. I thought it was a big mistake to fire Ed Donatel, the defensive coordinator. you're switching from a 4-3 to a 3-4, and we all know that those are outdated terms, but the defensive philosophy is a lot different. They tried to change the personnel. They weren't really successful, so you had to change the scheme with it's kind of like putting square pegs in round holes. And instead of giving the players that he needed to really succeed, he just kind of trying to put square pegs in round holes. I thought they would give him another year, but instead he was the scapegoat of what was a really good season. The bad thing about the Vikings is that I remember Matt Nagy, when he took over Chicago, it was a reclamation project. He had to build it up. Well, he had a lot of success his first year. He went 12-4, won the division, lost in the first round of playoffs. And people were expecting that. And that's what people are expecting in Minnesota. They're expecting them to just go ahead and win 13 games again. And that's not really realistic. It's really not. You got a lot of age on the defensive secondary. What do you do there? I mean, if you let those guys go, which you may have to, you can't just plug players in and say, okay, we're fine here. You can't really do that. And then on the offense, how many of those guys do you keep? And when I say guys, I'm kind of circling Thielen. I mean, this is a really good football player who's making a lot of money, who's now clearly a number 2 receiver. Do you try? I don't know what they're going to do with Justin Jefferson, but they have to restructure things in their organization over the next couple of years to figure out how to give Justin Jefferson the most money of any wide receiver, which you're looking at. He's probably going to make almost $40 million. Seriously, he's going to command about $40 million a year. It won't be this year; it'll be next year, but you have to plan in advance. It's not unrealistic to say that, but too many Lions fans, I think, just slow down. You didn't even make the playoffs this year, so. CM Jetta's 18, man. I love that, man. We got Panthers fan. You know what? I'm really glad you came in because I think of all the positions that are available, I think the Panthers are the most appealing. I say the same thing. You need 3 things to build an NFL team, and you need them in this order. You need quarterback, left tackle, edge rusher. Now, my boy Keys, I don't know if he's going to jump in today or not. He'll tell you he'd rather have a defensive tackle than an edge rusher. I disagree, but if you know anything about me and my boy Keys, we disagree on almost everything. We can't agree on anything. We can't even agree that we disagree. Because I told him, like, man, we always disagree. He goes, no, we don't. And it's kind of funny. But he'd rather have an elite defensive tackle. I say edge rusher, but if you said defensive tackle, I can't 100% say you're wrong, but I think it's edge rusher. Bottom line, you need somebody to get after the quarterback, and you have that. And you also have an awesome Ike Ekwonu was my number 1 player coming out of the draft last year. I didn't do a big board, but I just fell in love with this guy. So you pick 9th, but you have some extra draft picks from CMC. You can get creative. It's quarterback heavy draft. The Sean Payton interview has been postponed. I don't want to get into too much detail with that, but all the positions available, Carolina would be my number 1, even though they don't have a quarterback, because they can get one. You could also go through free agency. You can get a guy like you can get Jimmy G, you can get Derek Carr. To tell you the truth, it's going to be very interesting what San Francisco does. Do they want to roll with Brock Purdy, or do you want to go back to Trey Lance? I know that they're going to try to keep both those guys, but it'll be interesting. I don't know how Staley said, that was actually the first one. And so what he did to save his ass was he fired Joe Lombardi and Shane Day. Shane Day was the quarterback coach. Joe Lombardi was our offensive coordinator. So Justin Herbert's going to start his 4th year in the NFL, and he's going to be on offensive coordinator number 3. If I was the Chargers, I would have fired Staley, and I would do everything I could to get Sean Payton. And here's the deal. The Chargers would be a team that I think would give up multiple draft picks and they would be okay. The top to bottom of this team has so much talent. I think they're poorly coached. And I think Staley with a different type of team would be a lot better of a coach, but because he has such an offensive minded team and they just threw like a bunch of chicken shit on defense. Khalil Mack had a good year. J.C. Jackson was a bust. I actually thought Khalil Mack might have been a bust because he missed half the season the year before. He's on the wrong side of 30, but he played really well. Joey Bosa, when he's healthy, is as good as anybody. I mean, Joey Bosa could be, if he could play 17 games, he could be a defensive MVP. He's that good. He's just as good as his brother, who's probably going to win defensive MVP, but he can't stay healthy. I agree with you. So what he did was, to keep his job, he threw his offensive coordinator and quarterback coach under the bus. And I was reading ESPN earlier today. Apparently he said a couple days ago, but he's like, oh, well, I didn't feel my job was in jeopardy. That's bullshit. It's a good thing for Chiefs fans. And, the bad part is about Herbert is you may have the second best quarterback in the National Football League in Justin Herbert, and he's just being held back by the Chargers just stepping on their own foot. I would go after Sean Payton and give the Saints whatever they want. So. You talking head coach? I would disagree if you're talking head coach. If you're talking coordinator, the five that I got listed: Chargers, Broncos. Chargers, Vikings, Dolphins, Ravens, and Tampa. Are you talking coordinator or head coach? Because I'll be honest with you, the Carolina position is extremely attractive. I think it's a fantastic position. And Denver could be for the right guy, which, by the way, is not Sean Payton. Broncos fans are completely delusional thinking that Sean Payton would be a good fit there. I hope maybe Denver Gator or another Broncos fan can come in and explain why this is a good fit, but it's a terrible fit. Funk, what is up, brother? Man, I'm glad you're here, man. I'm sorry I wasn't here last week, man. Error on my part. The best offense in the league, and it had its oldest quarterback and running back. Man, that was a fun team. Best offense in the league. Okay. I think that Lions fans, I want you guys to drink the Kool-Aid, but I would really, if your expectations are to win the division next year, I would really kind of pump the brakes a little bit. But there's no reason why you can't make the playoffs. But I would be a little cautious about that. This is going to be such an interesting team because do you draft a quarterback this year or not? And if you don't, you got to make sure Goff has continued improvement, and you got to give him everything and keep everything in place. So do you use these 2 draft picks to help Goff, or do you just try to improve the defense? That's going to be kind of interesting. So, I think we can trade back. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now that I would be really shocked if the Lions keep their top 4 picks. I think they're going to trade back, trade up. They could do both. It wouldn't surprise me if they trade back in the first round, up in the second round. This is going to be a fun draft for the Detroit Lions. If you're a draft fan and you're a Detroit Lions fan, you're going to be in heaven. This is going to be a great draft for the Detroit Lions. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do, because at 6, you could trade up, you could trade back. If you trade up, you're going for a quarterback. All right. If you're trading back, what is your goal then? I mean, are you trying to accumulate draft picks for 2024? Are you attacking a specific area? It's going to be really interesting to see what the Lions can do. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Lions do. One of the most interesting teams this offseason is going to be the Detroit Lions. This draft, I wouldn't be surprised by anything. Yeah, Witherspoon is really looking like a fit. He was Joseph's roommate last year. He could be a fit. I have Daniel Jeremiah's draft up on the board, and I think that's the player that he has. Hold on here. I literally just looked over this seconds ago, and I completely forgot. Yeah, that's who he has. He was, he had Witherspoon. That's who Daniel Jeremiah has. And then 18 is your guy, Simpson, out of Clemson. Yeah. I know you guys really like Gonzalez, so. I disagree. Packers are aging and Rodgers is flirting with retirement. Bears are clueless and the Vikings were frauds. I'd be cautious. I mean, you got a 13-win team. You have one of the greatest quarterbacks who ever lived. And the Bears, it's going to be interesting to see what the Bears do this offseason. I wouldn't fear the Bears, but to sit there and say that the Lions are the team to beat in the North, I kind of want you. I'm going to talk on both sides of my mouth here because I want you to drink the Kool-Aid. I want you to be excited. I want you to celebrate the victory. But if you're expecting to win the division, I think you're going to be really disappointed. If I'm a Lions fan, what I'm looking at is like a 10-7 season and getting into the playoffs. That's kind of would be my expectation. If you think that you're a 13-14 win team when you have a lot of holes to fill, especially on defense, I'd be really, really cautious about that. But the Vikings, I could see the Vikings being frauds. I don't think they should have fired their defensive coordinator. I think they should have given him an opportunity to get the players in that he needs to get in. Very interesting to see what happens in Minnesota, who they bring in. And also, what do they do this offseason? Because, I mean, they probably need to get younger in that secondary. And you know, I mean, they have to add and get younger at the same time. It's going to be interesting. You know, honestly, this is probably the worst thing that could have happened to the Vikings for them to go 13-4. The best thing probably would have been to go like 8-9, miss the playoffs, and then they could just blow the team up. Because they have not really been sold on Cousins. I mean, I know they signed him to that big contract when great, I already forgot his name. When the former head coach was there. I just said his name like minutes ago and I already forgot his name. So anyhow, Mike Zimmer, okay. All right. So anyway, they signed a big year contract. Him and Zimmer did not get along at all. It really seems like they don't really want Cousins for the long term, and that's fine. But what do you do? You're not in a position that you could draft a quarterback. Do you want to give Cousins another 1-year deal? It's going to be weird. The Vikings are a weird story, but if you're a Lions fan and you're expecting to win the division, feel like the Lions will be a trap game for the Chiefs. Well, you know, hopefully me and Luke can get together and talk about that. We did that a couple of years ago, and it was really, really great for both of us, and we both had some really good points. I don't know off the top of my head if it's at Arrowhead or in Detroit, but maybe. I mean, what we will have to see. But I think it's way too soon to talk about 2023. Yeah, 100% in the running. Yes, absolutely. Again, you know what? I hit up Luke G about that, and he thought a lot of it was the Rooney Rule, which kind of makes sense. Kind of makes sense. He could be like the token interview. I don't want to think that, but I think Luke's right. So I'm stealing that from Luke G. If he does get a head coaching job, I would be kind of surprised, but I'd be curious where he would go. That would be a good fit. To tell you the truth, if he wins, you know what would be the best fit for him, to be perfectly honest, would be Indianapolis. And the reason why is that he has familiarity with a 4-3 and 3-4 scheme. He could just work on the defense, which has a lot of really, really good players. He could bring in an offensive coordinator, an assistant head coach with some experience, and it'd be interesting to see who he could get or who he couldn't get. But he could bring in an offensive guy, and here's what he would tell him and say, listen, we're going to draft the quarterback that you want. So we're going to build the offense. And I've seen teams do it. Matter of fact, Dallas did this with Mike McCarthy, as they drafted all defensive players, even though he's an offensive guy. Well, you know, you could bring in Aaron Glenn to Indianapolis, draft all offensive guys, and have Aaron Glenn say, okay, here's what we're going to do defensively. I think that would be a good fit, but I think Luke G's right. I think he's just gonna just a token interview. Lombardi sucked me as a choice too. But you know what? That's actually what I kept on hearing, was that the offense was just not complex enough, and that Herbert can handle a lot more. And that was actually one of the knocks on Herbert coming out of college, was that the offense was too simple and that he would struggle with an NFL offense. Well, he's going to be an offensive coordinator number 3. And I think it should be a head coach. I really think the Chargers should do kind of copy what the Chiefs are doing, because you have a quarterback that's got a kind of a similar skill set with Mahomes. They should bring in offense. The Chargers, I think, should go all in for Sean Payton. And it wouldn't surprise me if Sean Payton's like, you know what, I'm just going to sit out and I'm going to wait till next year, and I'm going to make LA pay me like $15 million a year so I can beat Kansas City. Interesting to see what the Chargers do. I do think that Staley is a liability. That's a very good thing for Detroit. The best offense in the league, when you're talking about the Raiders with Gannon, Rice, and Brown, was the oldest and was the best by the year they got smashed in the Super Bowl. Yeah. Now what happened was, if I'm correct, they brought in Jerry Rice the next year because Rice and Gruden go back. Gruden was a former wide receiver coach. So Gruden and Rice knew each other for like a very, very, very long time. And he brought in Rice because he wanted the younger wide receivers to see Rice practice and to see him study and to see him work out. And then remember, Gruden was the coach at Tampa Bay, not the Raiders. But you see my point, though, is that the Raiders, once they beat the Chiefs, then they got the advance on. And that's where I see Detroit doing with Green Bay, is that they finally got over the hump, and this could be their time. If you're going to sit here and tell me that the Lions are the team to beat next year, I'm going to say you're wrong. Are they a team that you should fear in the NFC? I said NFC, not just NFC North. The answer is yes. Out of all the teams that didn't make the playoffs in the NFC, the one I would circle and say, watch out for these guys, would probably be the Detroit Lions. That team scares me because they got a lot of things, including draft capital. So you do have some good things. You have youth on both sides of the ball. You got 4 of the top 59 draft picks, so you should be able to get 2 or 3 starters, unless you trade up like you did last year for an injured player. Jameson Williams stays healthy all year. You got some holes to fill in free agency. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But to sit here and say that the Lions are not a team to fear, I'm not saying that at all. But you guys are saying, hey, this is the team to beat in the NFC North. It's like, slow down. But at the same time, I want you to drink the Kool-Aid and be excited about your team, because, I mean, since I've been doing the show, Lions have been a very bad team. Well, now they're trending upwards. So I believe that Green Bay win may have an attractive spot for free agents. Yeah, I mean, sort of. I mean, I think that the Hard Knocks thing was really appealing, because watching Holmes and Campbell hug every player, and I've watched every single Hard Knocks. I've never seen every single player be happy. And that's something I've never seen before. I think that may say something. I think there's players around the league that are saying like, hey man, Detroit's not a bad place, and players talk. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So, well, you also have free agent holes too. I mean, you got a lot of players in free agency, and you got to figure out what to do. So they may not. I don't know. That's a weird story, because like, you gave up a 2nd round pick for him, but can you afford him? I mean, they have a weird cap situation. The Vikings are a very interesting story, because I want to tell you something. I think they made a mistake. I think they should have kept Donatel, and they should have added more pieces to fit his defense, which is completely different than Zimmer's defense, but they didn't want to do that. So we'll find out what happens. If you look at the Lions' schedule, 11-12 wins isn't realistic at this point, especially if the away game against Kansas City is abroad. Did you see them potentially? Yeah, Kansas City is I think Kansas City's locked into playing in Germany. I can't say that for sure, but I'm pretty sure that they're locked. I heard that the game was going to be the Patriots. I don't know. But I haven't looked at the Lions schedule, and it's way too soon. I want to see what teams do in free agency. I want to see what teams do in the draft. It's way too soon, to be honest with you. But I mean, just the way they ended the season, sure, 11, 12 wins isn't realistic at all. But I mean, you have to understand, like we got 9 months. I mean, about 8.5. We got 8.5 months. I want to see what they do in free agency. I mean, when if they lose several starters in free agents and they don't fill those holes, or they get guys that, like Jamal Williams, for example, he's probably going to say, "Hey, look, I didn't take a lot of money. You guys owe me. You guys need to pay up, man. I want to." Seriously, he realistically a 3-year, $30 million deal is not out of the question, but it may be something the Lions can't do. So what do? Do you go in free agency and pick somebody up? Do you want to go through the draft? I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, you may get a player or two that holds out. I mean, it's a lot different when you're the underdog. All right, I'm going to tell you this right now. It's a lot different when you're the underdog than when you're the main dog. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle it, because I thought that they did a good job. But remember that Carolina game where they just completely fell apart? Now, they played a bad schedule last year. They're going to play a tougher schedule this year. So, all these things here, though, I want you to, for the next 8.5 months, I want you to like pound the blue Kool-Aid. Like I want to hear that you guys are going to win the NFC North. I want to hear it, but I'm going to tell you guys to slow down. But I really want to hear it, because I love the fact that you guys are now thinking, "Hey, we're the beast." I think you're a playoff team, but right off the top of my head, like when you say Detroit Lions, I'm thinking 10-7. I'm not thinking 12. So. Yes, I did. I haven't gone through a lot of his videos. I subscribed, kind of scrolled through. I have links below. The top 10 teams in NFL history to never make the Super Bowl. That video took in a lot of time. I put in all the old time clips. All that film editing took forever. Because it took so much work, and I didn't have a lot of people really watch it. I think as of right now, I got I don't even think I have 100 views, and it was kind of discouraging, but check it out. It's a great video, because I put all the clips in there. I've been stalling on getting started on my top 10 Super Bowl teams of all time, just because it was just such a large amount of work. Probably when the season's over, I'll probably check out more other stuff. But between now till the end of the season, it's going to be pretty tight. But yeah, I checked a little bit out. When you set up your I haven't set up TikTok yet, but when you go on TikTok and you do stuff for men's self-development, number one, promote it on my channel. Put your channel link in any one of my videos in the comments here, and I'll sign up for TikTok, and I'll support your channel. So let me know when you do it. When I watch Aaron Glenn talk, I see him like he's got that head coach vibe. I don't. It's hard to believe that a guy would be a better head coach than coordinator. That's just really hard to believe. I mean, you never know. I mean, you really never know. But I don't think he's a serious candidate. I think if any team was going to hire him, I think the best fit would be Indianapolis. I really do. And because I could see him going to the Colts and then just saying, like, he have to bring if he went to the Colts, he would bring in a very experienced offensive minded guy. And he could say, "Hey, listen, whatever you want to do, we'll do." And he'd have to have a good fit, but that would be interesting. I like Steichen for the Panthers, and I think Payton takes the Denver job. Steichen, God, that name sounds familiar. I'm drawing a blank on who he is. Peyton is going to interview with Carolina. He was supposed to be there today. They had some weird things happen, but I really don't think he wants a Denver job. I really don't think he does. And Denver, I think, would be a terrible fit because the one thing about the Broncos, and the Broncos fans just don't get it, is that they really need help, and they really can't give up picks. Like the Broncos fans are convinced all we need is a head coach and we're the best team in the NFL, and that's not the case. That's really not the case. So giving up a draft pick, so multiple draft picks, it's at least the number one, doesn't benefit Denver at all. I think Sean Payton really wants the Chargers job. And I would not be surprised if he just holds off this year until he gets it. I think if he does take a job, I think the Panthers job would be really good. But if he gets the Panthers job, it's going to be they have a plan in place to either draft the quarterback that he wants, or they're going to go after somebody like Derek Carr in free agency who he really likes. Dan, I guess not yet. Do you think DJ Chark will make I have no idea. I really don't. To be perfectly honest, I'm gonna say no. And the reason why is because Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. So why would he want a team-friendly deal to be the number 3 guy? That doesn't make any sense. So if I'm DJ Chark, no. I want to go to a team that I can at least be the number 2 guy. You can go to a team like the Jets, for example, and you're opposite Garrett Wilson. That might be really good. You can go to a team like maybe San Francisco. And the reason why I say that, I think Ayuk is I know he's a first round pick, but like he could hold out and you may be able to be the number 2 guy there. I don't think he does, but I can't speak for him. I mean, he may just look at Detroit and say like, hey man, this is a good place. But I have a hard time seeing him say, hey, I'm going to go back to a team so I can be the number 3 guy. And that's what he would be. And I don't know if he really wants to do that, because he went into this season thinking he was going to be the number 1 guy. And then Amon-Ra was just kind of exploded on the scene. Jameson Williams is going to be the number 2 guy. So least drafted job is Houston, in my opinion. Okay, that's a possibility. I don't think so, because they got one of the best left tackles in football. If you roll with Davis Mills, you got your quarterback, and that's what I would do. But let's say you wanted to draft a quarterback, you got the spot, and then you pick what is it? 9? Where is it? I got it. I got the draft pulled up here. 12. You pick 12 again. So you got 2 and 12 as your draft picks. Okay. You have a left tackle. You got some young talent on defense. I think that this is a team, and that division, except for Jacksonville, is really, really on the decline. I think Jacksonville's a team that, by the way, Chiefs fans are really overlooking Jacksonville, and I think I hope the Chiefs aren't, because Jacksonville is a team that could definitely scare people. But when I look at that AFC South, Tennessee's kind of falling apart all over the place. They got a new general manager. I heard his speech. I'm sorry. Arizona got a guy from Tennessee. I apologize. I messed that up. Or in Tennessee. Oh God. You know what? Let's just go back. I think Houston's a much better job, but I like Davis Mills, and I would go into this season. Hey, I got stud left tackle. I got my quarterback. I picked 2 and 12. I got young talent on the defensive side of the ball. I don't need to win right away, and 2 of the teams in the division are kind of falling apart. I don't mind that. Denver Gator, what's up, peeps? Everyone is doing well. Denver Gator, I am so happy to see you, man. I am so happy to see you. I know you are excited for the Chiefs Jags fan, and I know you want the Chiefs to win. What's up, Denver? I think you guys are hiring Peyton. A lot of people think that. He was there. Seriously, the best hire I think would have been Jim Harbaugh. The second best would be Dan Quinn, who's interviewing right now. And Dan Quinn's the favorite right now. It was Sean Payton, now it's Dan Quinn. It'll be interesting. So, according to end of season strength of the schedule, Lions had one of the hardest strengths of schedules in the league. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that you don't really know how hard the schedule is till the season's over. Keep in mind that strength of schedule is boosted because Minnesota was 13-4. So you got to kind of put that into equation. So, but I always kind of ignore that strength of schedule for the most part. But like I said, I'm going to talk out both sides of my mouth. I'm going to tell you to pump the brakes on the Lions being the NFC North favorite. And then I'm going to tell you to put the gas and drink the Kool-Aid, because I want to hear you guys be excited about what could be a really good decade for the Detroit Lions. And this is like the brightest that this team's been for a long time. Oh my God. Hey girl, TV is on. Oh my God, my girl, how are you doing? She says, hey Dan, my man, I know you're married. I'm not going to flirt with you, but by the way, she looks this good in all of her videos, so make sure you check her out. She's doing daily vlogging, and it is awesome. We were playing for, so here's the deal. Once the combine is over, I'm going to do weekly videos, picks 1 through 4. I'm going to be on live Monday after the draft. I have some friends that have been trying to get me to do a live show during the draft. I don't want to do that, but I may change my mind. But the plan is right after the combine, I'm going to do weekly videos with just 4 picks at a time, which will be 8 weeks. And then I can also do retraction videos because free agents are going to be signed, which are going to affect draft picks. So that's kind of the plan. But right now, the plan is Monday, I'm going to do my draft grades live. Because I have a whole system of how I do it. I take a notebook when the draft picks come out for the first round. I put a letter grade. Then when there's a trade, I do the trade. I write down all the trades. I get the numbers. I use the old Jimmy Johnson trade chart where pick number 1's 3,000. I think pick number 32 is I think it's 350. I don't know. Somebody recommended a different chart I haven't looked at, but whenever there's a trade that goes on, I grade the trade, add that into consideration, and then the next day I do the kind of the same thing with the second round, third round. If there's a player that stands out, I kind of change it all. I have a system. I've been doing this for years, so I have a system. I don't know if I want to do a show live. I do have some friends that have been trying to get me to do a show because it's the draft's in Kansas City, but I'm kind of against doing that right now. I could change my mind. But I'm going to have a lot of videos with the draft. I do think I'm going to change it. I was going to do, well, this year it'd be 31, but 32 videos for all 32 picks. I think I'm going to do picks 4 at a time. And we're going to do a lot of draft stuff. I had Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft. It just I pulled it up minutes before the show started. So I've been a little behind in some of my draft content. But I'm going to do a lot of looking. You think Lamar is leaving the Ravens, by the way? I don't like that Roquan Smith contract. Feel like they gave a linebacker quarterback money. Well, they didn't give him quarterback money. A 5-year, $100 million deal. It's not quarterback money. It's not even close to what Lamar wants. Lamar would be furious because I think they offered him $250, a 5-year, $250 million deal. But I think that only a fraction of it was guaranteed, and he wanted to guarantee. One thing Lamar's making a big mistake on is representing himself, him and his mom. I think his mom was like a nurse growing up. She doesn't even have a formal background as far as being an agent or a lawyer. Really, what you really want is somebody with like a law degree. Most sports management don't have law degrees, but the bigger companies have lawyers that work for them. And that's really what he should do. I mean, Lee Steinberg's probably the biggest sports agent in sports today. So if I'm Lamar Jackson, I would hire an agent, because I'm going to tell you exactly what the I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you exactly what the Ravens are going to do. They're going to franchise his ass, and they're going to franchise him again until he says, hey, I'll take a lesser deal. And they can do that. And he can hold out, but to what avail? I mean, what are you going to do? Because the Ravens got rid of their offensive coordinator. And I be honest with you, I think that's a sign. I don't care what John Harbaugh says. I think the Ravens are looking at this saying, okay, what can we do if we have to move on? All right. Derek Carr, Jimmy G, can we draft somebody? But the Roquan Smith contract I thought was smart, but when that contract hit, my first reaction was, oh, they're going to franchise him. And that's exactly what you do. You franchise him and you tell him, hey, if you want to hold out, fine. We got first pick in the draft. What is it? Pick number 24. I'll find out real fast. I should have this I'll have it memorized. So Daniel Jeremiah's draft, this is interesting. Anthony Richardson, I don't think Anthony Richardson drops 22, but in Daniel Jeremiah's draft, Anthony Richardson's available. And that you could go that route if you're Baltimore. You could draft somebody and say, you know what, Lamar, if you play hardball. So but no, they didn't give him quarterback money. They gave him a lot of money. And I think he deserved it. And Baltimore's a scary team, but they're only scary if Lamar Jackson's willing to take less money than what he wants. And if I'm Lamar Jackson, I do that. And I stay the face of the franchise and I win some Super Bowls. And actually, step number one, if I'm Lamar Jackson, get an agent. All right. Nothing against your mom. And I might be wrong. Maybe his mom has like a law degree or sports management. I think she was a nurse. I could be wrong about that, but I would get an agent. All right. I would get an agent. I would sign an agent today. Then step two is, get the best possible long-term deal you can from Baltimore. And when I say best possible, I would do like a short-term deal. I really would. I would do like a 4-year, $175 million deal, like $80 million guaranteed. And you're going to say, why would you do that? Because if he can change his game enough to prove that he can win without the Ravens, then do that. Then when year 3 or 4 comes along, then you ask for your big time money. Anyway, spend a little too much time talking about that. I apologize. Showing some love to Denver Gator, the Eagles offensive coordinator. That's where I heard it from. The name that's getting a lot of hype is the guy I've been talking about, and that's Mike Kafka. Which team are you talking about? Houston. Well, they have maybe the best second best left tackle. I'd call Trent Williams. They have a great left tackle, and they have Kenyon Green. Houston's offensive line. If you're talking about Houston, their offensive line's not that bad. I'm trying to spread it out. Feels like the Lions fan makes you a Lion. Hey, no, come. Hey, listen. If you want to talk about something, we'll talk about it. You're nice enough to come on Friday night and talk football. We'll talk. You want to talk Lions, we'll talk Lions. If you're the only one here, we'll talk Lions then, and that's fine. I haven't got together with Luke G, but Luke G a couple weeks ago said, hey, listen, you want me to come on? I'll come on. Just give me a heads up. You know how much I love Luke G. Yeah, I love Luke. By the way, if you're not, I don't have the link. If you go to my YouTube channel and you'll see the About page, Back Talk Brothers with Keys and Luke G are 2 channels I recommend, because Luke G has the best draft coverage. I mean, his draft coverage is phenomenal. I love his draft coverage. Yeah, Payton, best odds for Denver. Payton and Patton law firm for the Rockies, but the draft, yeah, it does. And right now, I've been hearing the draft. The number one guy is actually Dan Quinn, the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. So that's kind of what's going on. Honestly, I think you're in an attractive spot, and Russell Wilson caught a lot of heat. He was not cooking. I'm pretty sure Lamar signs the next few weeks of Baltimore better get done before Burrow contract show. The next big contract's going to be Justin Herbert, who's going to enter year 4, and he's going to have offensive work. I tell you the truth, if I'm Justin Herbert, and I tell the Chargers today, like I want the big contract. I don't even go into year 4. And by the way, with the Chargers, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. The Chargers are going to do that 5-year deal. All right. So they're going to extend it out. And then what's going to happen, you watch. So he's going to enter 4-year and then 5-year. 3 years from now, probably won't remember this, but 3 years from now, you watch, and it's going to be a big story about Herbert holding out because he's going to want something crazy, and the Chargers are going to be like, oh, we don't want to pay that. Because that's just kind of been the Chargers deal. And by the way, if they hold out for 2 years, the number could be like $75 million, which I know sounds crazy, but he's going to look for a $75 million a year contract. He really is going to ask for something like that. And the Chargers are probably not going to be able to pay him that. But you watch, it's going to be a nightmare when Herbert comes up, and Burrow should hold out for even more. Whatever Herbert gets, Burrow should ask for more. And it's going to make that deal Mahomes sign look like a bargain. So it's going to be kind of funny. I don't think so, man. I mean, he played he wasn't even – he signed mid-season, and he was one of the best defensive players in the league. Now, keep in mind, he has to play like he's one of the best defensive players in the league. I mean, he can't go back down. But what it does cause is some problems for Patrick Queen, because Patrick Queen played pretty damn good too. And if you don't give him near the money, then he's going to want to walk. So that might be the issue. I think Quinn's going to be the guy too. And this just makes a lot of sense. The only issue is with Dan Quinn is his defense is completely different than what the Broncos have been running for the last, I think, 5 years. They've been running a 3-4, and Quinn runs a 4-3. Completely different style of defense. And Quinn's a defensive guy, and I think that's a good move because if I'm Denver, I'm not trying to build an offense to compete with Kansas City. I'm trying to build a defense to stop Mahomes. And that's what I thought that they were going to do in the beginning, but they didn't do that. I think Quinn would be a great hire. I think it'd be a great hire. 13. I'm not unreasonable about my squad. I just remember I've been saying that too, and I thought it would be with a rookie quarterback, and that's what I really want to see is that are they going to go ahead? Are they going to go ahead and draft a quarterback this year, or are they going to say, hey, golf's our guy. We got our quarterback. We got 4 picks in the top 60. These guys are going to be used to build up this team to dominate the NFC. I didn't say NFC North. I said NFC. And that could be it. I think Johnson draft chart needs updated. The Johnson I got the Daniel Jeremiah draft in front of me. So Denver, there are other updates. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. The Jimmy Johnson. Okay. I've been using the Jimmy Johnson chart for a long time, and there's other draft charts that I'm going to go research. I haven't done this yet, but there's other draft charts I'm going to go and research and use because you're not the only person that says that. So if you know of one in particular, shoot me a DM or just text me because after the Super Bowl, I'm going to take like a mini vacation. I mean, I'm still going to follow football, but I'm going to take kind of a mini vacation. Then right after the combine, it's going to be just draft. This is going to be like draft central for like the next couple of months. But between the ending of the Super Bowl and the combine, that's when I'm kind of going to do some draft research. And then right after the combine, this is going to be Draft Central. So, yeah, by the way, you guys should, all my social media links below. You can also email me. I've been bad at looking at that. James shot me an email. But contact me if you have another chart that you recommend. I'm kind of going to play around because I've been using that Jimmy Johnson chart as basically my draft Bible, and I'm going to kind of, go back and forth. So Denver, you guys signed in Draymond Jones. They may not be able to. I get it. I get it, especially an off-ball linebacker. I get that. This is a guy who could win defensive MVP as an off-ball linebacker. And the one thing is about the Ravens is that even though they got some veterans and some Pro Bowlers, overall they don't have anybody who really breaks the bank. I believe Marlon Humphrey has a pretty big contract. I know it's not number one corner money, but Marcus Peters makes some good money. But I think it works out pretty well, to be honest. I 100%, especially for a guy who doesn't get a lot of sacks. But yeah, I mean, this is a guy who could be defensive MVP. And just when he was with the Ravens, the defense did get significantly better. So I kind of like it. Amazement. I have not done any of my picks yet. I have one game I'm putting action on. I'm going to star this comment, and I'm going to copy it, put it down, but I'm going to start here in a bit. I'm going to get caught up on my comments, and I'm going to give you all four of my game predictions, which are in the link below. You can watch the video. And I'm going to give you the one game that I actually put money on. I'm thinking about taking Cincy on the money line. I think they win the game out. Just remember, Jonah Williams is out. If Jonah Williams is 100%, I'd agree with you. You're starting basically you're starting right tackle, you're starting left tackle. One of your starting offensive guards are gone against a team that has a good defensive line who's at home. That's why if you are going to take Cincinnati in the points. By the way, I'm going to let you know if their offensive line was 100%, I am 100% on board with you taking Cincinnati money line. Jonah Williams is out. The video I made below for this week, he was questionable, but he had a dislocated kneecap. I don't know how you could dislocate your kneecap and play a week later. I mean, I know NFL players can do superhuman things with injuries. That's just part of the way, they're built. I mean, the human body can do extreme things once you get used to it, but that's one of those injuries I don't see that you can recover in a week as a dislocated kneecap. An NFL player can do something that I couldn't. Like if I had dislocated kneecap, I probably couldn't walk for a couple months. I'm sure he tried, but he can't play. Be careful because the Bills have a lot of good defensive linemen, even without Von Miller out. They've been loading up on draft picks. They 2 years ago, they used second round pick on a guy I loved, AJ Espinoza. And then in the year before, 3 years ago, it was AJ Espinoza in the second round. Then it was it was 2 years ago, or is it? Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Gregory Rousseau, Boogie Basham. All those guys are still on the roster. They have a deep defensive line, and that's kind of why I'm picking the Bills. Spoiler alert. So be careful. I predict DC Ryan takes Houston. Stetson goes to Carolina or Arizona. Morris would be a god in Carolina. Saints trade within the division. The Carolina Saints will get multiple firsts. Yeah, it would be very interesting to see what's going to happen. You're predicting DC, the Miko Ryans. That actually would be a good fit. Former player, really, really, really good situation. I think would be for him to go to Houston because he would be able to attract a really good offensive coordinator, and he could also tell the guy, "Hey, listen, I picked 2 and 12. Who do you want?" And we'll make it happen. I think that he would be a guy that like a veteran offensive coordinator wouldn't mind going to. So it'll be interesting. I didn't know Stetchen was interviewing. I know Mike Kafka, the Giants offensive coordinator, is interviewing. I didn't know Stetchen was interviewing. So every position, not special teamers, are going to have the top eye getting at least 100 million. Yeah. So many quarterbacks with question marks this offseason: Carr, Brady, Jimmy G, Roger. Yeah, there's a lot of this offseason is going to be one of the best off seasons in history because you got a guy like Brady who's available. You got a guy like Derek Carr, Jimmy G. Those are guys that could start. Aaron Rodgers, another guy. Lamar Jackson, too, is an interesting story. There's also what do you do in not Cincinnati. What do you do in New Orleans? Because you got Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston. What do you do with those two guys? Do you bring them back? Do you want to bring them back? Do you want to go in a different direction? What about Cam Newton? I mean, why wouldn't you bring him in as a second teamer, third teamer, whatever? I mean, why not? This is also a really good draft because there's several quarterbacks that aren't going to go in the first round that could really potentially start for your team. You know, Herndon Hooker, the Tennessee quarterback's the number one guy. He's a guy, if he gets healthy enough, he's a guy that could go into training camp and maybe play for a starting job. What about Matt Ryan? Is he going to be a starter in Indianapolis? Marcus Mariota. I mean, there's so many great offseason stories. This is going to be a great offseason. I'm gonna do a lot of videos, and free agency is going to be a lot of fun. So, showing some love. I love when you guys show some love for each other. Okay, who's more to blame? Leftwich for Brady? Is it equal blame? I don't blame either. I blame the injuries. Your center, your Pro Bowl center was out. You had a Pro Bowl offensive lineman retire. You brought in Shaq Mason. You had injuries all over that offensive line. It's offensive line injuries. That's who I would blame. I thought it was a big mistake. I didn't even talk about this. I thought it was a big mistake to fire Leftwich. Leftwich is a guy that if I'm the Miko Ryans, I'd love to bring in a guy like Leftwich and say, hey, let's just go to the AFC South and tear this shit up. I mean, that to me looks like a great fit. I mean, don't feel bad for Leftwich because he's going to get a lot of money from one of these guys that don't want to be an offensive coordinator. I think Tampa Bay to me looks like a team that's about ready to go into a tailspin. I think that what's going to happen is they're going to have to find a way to get a quarterback. You're going to have to pay for that. Then you're going to lose out some stuff in free agency, and you still have some holes on this team. Now you do have a very, very good defense, and you do have some talent. I mean, you got Mike Evans is a very good wide receiver. Who's the other guy? 14. Can't believe I can't think of his name. He's phenomenal. The defense is still first rate. I don't think Todd Bowles is that good of a coach. And here's the thing, that NFC South, I think as a whole, is going to get a lot better. I think the Saints are a team that could be on the rise, especially if they get multiple draft picks for Peyton, which I think will happen. Carolina's a team, I think that's got everything ready to go except for, of course, a coach and a quarterback. The Falcons are an interesting team because I love Desmond Ridder, so I think you got Desmond Ridder. You did lose Dean Pease, which is a big one, but I think that depending on who they get, and there's talk about Vic Fangio going there. Fangio, I think, would be an A+ candidate for Atlanta. If that happens, then Atlanta could be a team. That NFC South, which was a disaster this year, could be really tough next year. So, yeah, he's going to get ridiculous money. Him and Herbert are going to get ridiculous money. I'm telling you right now, I think Denver and Peyton would be a disaster. I think it would be a disaster. I think Peyton would hate it there, and I think the Broncos fans would really be mad. The Broncos. Here's the thing: Broncos fans are not getting it that they need to get better as a team. They can't compete in the AFC West by not drafting players. They need this draft pick which is Miami's other number 1 round draft pick. I forget where they're picking. I'm gonna say it's 18. Where is it? Hold on here. Where's he pick? Denver needs this pick. Is it 21? Oh, it's the 49ers pick, so we don't know yet, but 28. But they need that pick. They really do. And they don't see it. Broncos fans just are not getting it. And they really do. That's why Peyton's not a good fit there. And if I'm Sean Payton, that's the last place I would want to go. But it'll be interesting. Yeah. I think Carolina. I really do. I really think he wants the Chargers job. I really believe that he wants the Chargers job. If he has to take a job this year today, I think it's Carolina. And the reason why I say that is that he'll be able to get his quarterback. He already has the left tackle. He's got the edge rusher. He knows the division. And I also think that if he goes to Carolina, he's probably thinking, I can win this division this year, even with a rookie quarterback. That's my thought. I'm leaning towards him just waiting one more year and taking the Chargers job. So, Herbert is in his 4th year. He's going to be on his 3rd different offensive coordinator. I think Ben Johnson goes to Chargers. That could happen. You know what? They're going to franchise him, and I think that Lamar is not, because he doesn't have an agent. I think he's going to try to hold out, and then he'll sign, and he won't have a good year. It's going to be a disaster. It really is. It's going to be a disaster. Johnson, the Chargers, good choice. You guys should be pumped up about him staying. Fangio interview in Atlanta and others. Peyton interested in bringing him on. Is Detroit looking for a DC? How about Fangio? You know what? Fangio in Detroit would be like, oh man, that would be good. Tampa's never known. They didn't do that bad. They really didn't do that bad 2 years ago. They just went completely away from it this year. And I don't know who's more to blame. Is it the offensive line injuries? There was talk that Fournette came into training camp at 265. I didn't blink at the time because a guy who's naturally 240 comes into training camp at 260. That's not a big deal, okay? I'm 170, so for me losing 20 pounds, it's a big deal. When you're 260, dropping 20 in the NFL is not a big deal at all. There was a guy who played for the Chiefs. His name was Tamba Ali, known for his work ethic, one of the hardest working guys in the NFL. He came training camp one year at 290, and he played at 260, 270. Nobody batted an eye, and they talked about Andy Reid, and Aaron said, I don't care. and seriously, it was not a big deal. But I started watching him, and he never looked like he was in great physical condition for an NFL player. Like Jerry Rice could run. It looked like the whole game and not ever get tired. Where Fournette looks like he had a 15-yard run. He looked like he'd be winded. He looked a little heavy, and I don't know if it was just in my head or what, but he didn't look like the same guy. For those of you that don't know, Fournette was the number 1 player coming out of high school. He was a Heisman candidate. He was always used to being the best guy. And then when he went to Tampa Bay, Bruce Aaron, he wanted to be traded. And Aaron's like, look, you're not going to be the guy here. Get used to it. And he kind of embraced it. And it worked. Remember, he had that playoff stretch where Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl. He was probably the most valuable player in the playoffs. I was kind of expecting that this year, and he wasn't that. I thought that this year would be the year that Fournette might be like a surprise MVP, get 400 touches and just dominate games, and he wasn't even close. So that's kind of discouraging. So, I seriously, that's kind of what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. Yes, he is. Carr to Tampa or the Jets or Jimmy G to the same. I don't think Brady goes to the NFC East. Jets, Miami, too much history. Here's what I see happening. I think Brady ends up with the Raiders. Reunites for Josh McDaniels, plays 1 year, and he mentors Stidham, and that the plan is to Stidham start in 2024. That's kind of what I see. I think Derek Carr goes to the Jets. That makes a lot of sense. I'm sorry. Derek Carr goes to Tampa Bay. That makes a lot of sense. You can win with Derek Carr, and you say, hey, look, you pump him up as being, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and it's a good fit. I think Jimmy G goes to the Jets. Him and Robert Saleh known each other for a while. I didn't even write it down, but the Jets moved on from Mike LaFleur. Or is it Matt LaFleur? I always get two names mixed up. But anyway, the LaFleur, who was the offensive coordinator, they moved on from him. But Jimmy G to the Jets makes a lot of sense. That's what I see happening with those three. They are. All right, let's break down playoff games here. Jacksonville travels to Kansas City. Kansas City is now a 9-point favorite. People are getting this right. I really thought the over-under would drop. It's been steady at 53. The reason why I thought it would drop, it's like 50 degrees outside today. I spent some time outside today. It was a beautiful day. It's supposed to snow tomorrow because it's the Midwest, and that's what happens. I really thought the over-under would drop. I thought people would see snow and Florida team, and I thought it'd drop. It stayed at 53. I really thought the over-under would drop. It's not. I have action on this game. I bet on Jacksonville. I bet on Jacksonville to cover 8.5. You can get it for 9. I'm telling you this right now. Kansas City's probably going to win this game, and I say probably. Chiefs' social media are way overlooking this game. There's talk about complaining about the AFC Championship game. There's talk about that. That's what you're seeing a lot of. Nobody's taking this game seriously on Chiefs social media. I'm going to tell you this right now. Jacksonville's going to cover 9. Like, this is almost a lock. There's a good chance Jacksonville wins this game. There really is. And Chiefs fans are really overlooking it. Now, Andy Reid after a bye is the best coach in NFL history. Andy Reid does a good job against former coordinators, but and Jacksonville's a young team. All right, I mean it's going to be hard for them to have the effort that they showed in the second half. By the way, they lose the turnover battle like they did last time. They played the Chiefs, then they're going to lose. But I bet on Jacksonville to cover. I got 8.5. You can get 9. Take Jacksonville. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be a close game, and it wouldn't surprise me if Jacksonville wins this game because Kansas City overlooks them. And it's hard because you're going to have to play Buffalo or Cincinnati. It's going to be hard. But I'm telling you right now, Jacksonville's a really good team, folks. Jacksonville's a really good team. And you know what? I'm going to go a step further. I think Trevor Lawrence next year is going to be my MVP pick. He's playing that good. There's a lot to like about Jacksonville. So I put money on Jacksonville to cover 8.5. You can get it for 9. So if you do sports betting, take Jacksonville to cover. But I do like the Chiefs to win. Hutch was causing so many fits against Packers. Looks like he's starting to get Hutchinson. I think Hutchinson's the type of guy he's going to put on the NFL 20, like I like to call it, and he's going to enter training camp, and he may be ready to like defensive MVP type numbers. And I think that whether through the draft or free agency, they're going to add to that front 7. And I say front 7 because they could go linebackers. I'd be interested to know how they feel about a guy like Ozurike. If they want to move on, do they want to replace him? Or is he going to be part of the future? Because I don't think he is, and he's a high enough draft pick that you may be able to get some draft capital. And that's kind of an interesting story and something we didn't even touch about. Excuse me. But let me ask you this here. Let's say you got a player that you fall in love with. All right. Let's say you use 6 on, or let's just say Witherspoon. Let's just say you use 6 for Witherspoon, and then one of these elite edge rushers, Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson, starts to slip like to 11. Maybe you make a deal, 18, a third, Ozarike to, for 11 or 12. Why not? Maybe you get done. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, I kind of, that's kind of what I see. I think this is going to be definitely within a touchdown. If you do sports betting, take Jacksonville on 9. Kansas City does not like to cover point spreads, and Chiefs fans are really overlooking this game. It's hard with social media the way it is to just imagine that the Chiefs are not really going to get up for this game. I know Jacksonville is. I seriously, I'm gonna call the game. By the way, I haven't set up the live stream yet, but I am going to call the game. I'm going to set that up just right after I'm finished. But yeah, take Jacksonville on the points. If Jacksonville and the Giants win the I got Kansas City Karlaftis. And Chris Jones specifically. Chris Jones specifically needs to have a big game, and I really think he will. But Chiefs fans are really overlooking Jacksonville. It's Chiefs social media is really just starting to drive me nuts, man. I thought you wanted Deron Payne. Why not both? Draymond Jones would be a nice addition for the Lions. Yeah. Draymond, one of my favorite players. Yeah. Draymond Jones is a really good player. With Houston popping off, they may have found their edge rusher next to Hutch. It'll be interesting, but I wouldn't go into the season and just say, hey, Hutchinson's my guy. I would either add to it via the draft or look at free agency and see if there's somebody that you may be able to get relatively cheap. There was an article about all the free agents, and there was a few pass rushers that you may get. So Payne will be expensive. Payne would be expensive. He'd be a nice add to the Detroit Lions. Another thing is that if you're convinced Ozarike is not the guy, I would try to move him. And if you do, what can you get? Because if you can get something of value, you may be able to trade up in draft and do something really, really good. I mean, you might be able to do something really exceptional and be interesting to see what you're thinking. But one of these edge rushers, if one of them falls, whether it's Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson, or maybe you get a corner at 6 and then maybe you want to double down and get another corner. I'd be shocked if you did that, but you could do so many different things here. And that's the neat thing about having but Draymond Jones would be a nice addition to Detroit. It really would. Next up, the Giants travel to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. Eagles are a 7.5-point favorite. The over-under is 48. I like the Eagles to win, but again, I like the Giants to cover. I think it's going to be a close game. Remember, these guys played at the last game of the season, and Giants rested starters, and what was the score, like 27-22 or something? I don't know what it was. I got ESPN pulled up. I'm not going to look it up. I know it was within a touchdown. Daniel Jones has been playing lights out. I mean, he played a great game against Minnesota. And if I'm Daniel Jones, I'm his agent. I'm like, hey, you guys didn't want that 5th-year deal. Pony up. And he's a guy that you may be a team that's looking for a quarterback. Why not take Daniel Jones instead? And you see what he can do with the right guy. Very interesting to see what the Giants do, because I could see the Giants, trying to draft a quarterback. I could see the Giants trying to sign Daniel Jones to a bargain basement deal. And if I'm Daniel Jones, I don't take it. Maybe Tampa Bay wants to offer Daniel Jones big time money. So it'll be interesting. Be very interesting. Yeah, I agree with Denver Gator here. Same pick, Giants lose. But yeah, I like the Giants to cover. I like Philly to win. I like Philly's running game. I like their defense. I think that this is going to be a very, very good game. One thing about these interdivisional rivalries is that in the playoffs they usually are close, and this is going to come down, I think, to like a special teams play. You may see like a blocked punt, a punt return touchdown, a kickoff return for a touchdown. Jalen Hurts, is he 100%? Because if he's not, then I thought he was my MVP for most of the year. But if he's not 100%, then the advantage definitely goes to the Giants, and the Giants front seven is pretty good. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in this game. Nick Sirianni's a young coach. Does he handle a bye week as well as somebody like Andy Reid? You don't know. This is some uncharted territory. You got two really young head coaches. You know, Brian Dable, of course, is his first year. Sirianni, it's his second. But Sirianni, I mean, it's a lot different when you're favored after a bye week and you're at home. I mean, trust me, Giants get up 10-0, the Boo Birds are going to come out. You know how Philly is. Everybody here knows who how Philly is. So it's going to be interesting. My camera's out of focus. Yeah. All right. I'm going to be out. There it is. All right. Having me think Draymond would go for it. That's going to be an interesting story. You Lions fans who think that players are going to take discounts, come to Detroit, I think you're going to be very disappointed. I think Jones gets a midline contract. Dable proven what he can do with mobile quarterbacks. Look at the bump for Allen, huge bump first year for DJ. So I'm going to tell you this right now. Daniel Jones, I think I'm stealing this from somebody else. His minimum is probably going to be $40 million a year. And if I'm the Giants, I pay it too. If I'm the Giants, 5-year, $200 million deal would be perfect. And you keep Dable and Jones together. If Jones decides that he wants 45 or 50, you know, I kind of take a look at the draft, because Saquon Barkley is also a free agent and he's going to be cheaper, but he also has an injury history. But you may have to look at the draft. You may have to say, okay, well, what quarterback can we get? Because if Anthony Richardson free falls in this draft and I'm the Giants, I might say, you know what? We can work with Anthony Richardson. He can do at least 85% of what Daniel Jones can do. We'll trade up. We'll get Richardson. We'll let Daniel Jones walk. We'll get Saquon Barkley a lot of money. And, you know, we got a great defense. The offensive line finally is solidified with the Giants. So, yeah. One Pride 40 says that about everything. All right. Now we got Sunday's games. These are two really good games, and both these games I think have some really big questions. Cincinnati at Buffalo. Buffalo's now a 5.5-point favorite. This has jumped up since Jonah Williams has been ruled out. The over-under has also jumped up, which I'm a little surprised about. It's now 49. I'm not going to bet on this game. I'll be honest with you. I have no idea about this game. To be honest, the Sunday games, I don't know about either one of them. I'm on level with you. I really have no clue. But this one, I'm leaning towards Buffalo only because the offensive line injuries. But remember last year, he was sacked 9 times against Tennessee and they still won. The one thing is about, we talked about Brian Dable. Brian Dable was with Josh Allen his first 4 years in Buffalo, and the arc just was like straight up. He didn't get worse, but he definitely didn't get better. I'd argue he slipped like, you know, Josh Allen slipped like this much. Which quarterback do I like the most out of these two? I would say Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is the guy I would fear more, believe it or not. He's got better weapons. I mean, Cincinnati, a lot of people don't talk about this, but that defense is pretty good. They got some good edge rushers. Logan Wilson is one of the best players in the NFL nobody talks about. And, Jesse Bates, phenomenal playmaker in the secondary. So the over-under, I'm watching DraftKings, the over-under just dropped 48. So the over-under is 48.5. So it's going down, I guess. If the Bengals had a healthy offensive line, I would take the Bengals. Because the offensive line, I think the Bengals get at least one fumble out of Joe Burrow. He gets sacked a lot. It kind of makes sense, and that's what I think is going to change things around. This is a tough game, real tough game, and the offensive line injuries makes me lean towards Buffalo, but I honestly don't know. The final game of the divisional round is Dallas traveling to San Francisco. San Francisco is a 4-point favorite. Over-under is 46. It's funny because when I do shorts and I cut up my picks into shorts, I never know which ones are going to take off and which ones nobody cares about. The Cowboys 49ers shorts took off, and 49ers fans hate me. Because I picked Dallas, and honestly, I wanted to pick one underdog. I don't want to pick four favorites, and I think Dallas matches up really good against San Francisco, but the NFL gave San Francisco an extra 2 days advantage. They played Saturday where Dallas played Monday, but Dallas with Tyron Smith coming back, he's now the starting right tackle. So they took their first-round pick out of Tulsa. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he was the starting left tackle. They moved him inside. They put Jason Peters at the left tackle. That works. And they did a really good job against a pretty good Bucs defense. And one of the comments people kept on saying is that the Bucs are broken. I'm like, they weren't broken defensively. I mean, this is still one of the better defenses, and Dallas carved them up. I mean, they really did. So I could see that. I could see that. And by the way, this Detroit would have to pay that much. He's not taking a discount to go to Detroit. And Detroit would be smart, but if you pay him that much, you got to move. I think you have to move Uzurike. You got to move him. And even if you get 6, ideally you get like a 5th that could be a 4th, or a 4th that could be a 3rd. But even if you just get like a 6th or a 7th or whatever, you may we'll give you you have 2 6 and no 5th, if I remember right, or it's a 5th and no 4th. I don't remember. You're missing a 4th or a 5th. So if you're missing a 4th, you could be like Uzurike in a 5th and we get your 4th. But if you make a move like that, you have to move Uzurike. And he's a guy I would love. I would love Uzurike in Kansas City if it was cheap. If you gave up like a 3rd round, Chiefs gave up a 3rd round pick for Uzurike, I'd be pissed. But anyway, the Dallas offensive line, I think, could really negate the 49ers defensive line, and that's the strength of the defense. Their front seven's the best front seven, easy. However, their secondary is not that good, believe it or not. A lot of people look at the 49ers as the best defense in the NFL, and I do too, but you can damage their secondary. Look what Kansas City did to them earlier in the year. All right? Look what they did earlier in the year. They put up 47 on them. And Dallas could do the same thing. If Dallas can move the ball against San Francisco, and I think they can put enough pressure on Purdy. Remember, this is a rookie, right? And he's going against a fast, good defense in Dallas. If Dallas wins a turnover battle, and I think they could easily do this, then they can win this game. I wanted to pick an upset. 49ers fans lost their mind on this, and that's okay. It always baffles me that some shorts nobody looks at and other shorts blow up. This one blew up. I posted this, and like an hour later, I had like 1,000 views and a dozen comments. Some of them are not nice. 49ers fans were not happy about this. Breaking news: the Detroit Lions are signing Riley Reid to a 5-year deal. Really? I'm actually on ESPN. You put LOL at the end. I'm on ESPN. I'm not even looking at it. So Riley Reid. If I put this into my computer, is it going to track the virus? Oh God, okay. Okay. All right. So I fell for it. All right. So that's where we're at. Let's go over Amazement's picks. Jags +9. I also like. I wouldn't touch Bengals in 5.5 personally. The reason why is too many questions about that game. If Jonah Williams was playing, then I think that would be the play. I wouldn't touch that game. Niners +4. Well, you mean -4. I like Dallas in that game, to be honest with you, and Giants. So I would not even put action on Cincinnati Buffalo. I would just do that. And by the way, it's Niners -4, but I think it's just simple typo. Let's do this here. I am gonna put your picks in here. And let's see here. We're going to take Jacksonville +9. I can't believe I fell for that porn star thing. I was like, God, I recognize that name. I was thinking it was a right tackle. That could be a joke, by the way. And I know you meant -4. And by the way, the Jags and the Giants, I think you definitely win the Jags and the Giants. That's going to be those are two smart bets. The Niners and Bengals. I seriously would not touch the Bengals just because of the offensive line situation. Gooch! Oh my God! I get Gooch. Gooch is the talent out of the back talk brothers, and I am so excited that you're here, man. Gooch, I'm glad you're here, man. I am glad you're here, man. I'm about ready to wrap up, man. But I just want to recap just a few things here. Number one, I think the game I put action on is I put Jacksonville. I put money on Jacksonville to cover 8.5. It's now 9. I think Chiefs Kingdom is really overlooking what could be a really good team. I think Trevor Lawrence could be MVP next year. I think Jacksonville's got a really good team. I think they're hot. I think this is going to be a close game. I really think it's going to be a close game. By the way, Gooch, if you're going live, I DM'd. I haven't checked since I've been on for like an hour and a half. I sent a DM. Are you guys going live tonight? Because if I'm up, I definitely want to catch it. So, I mean, I am so. By the way, you guys are missing out. Gooch is the talent on the Back Talk Brothers. He's definitely the entertaining one out of the 3, and he also likes his NFL history. And I by the way, Gooch, did you check out my video, top 10 teams to never make the Super Bowl? I think you would enjoy that video. It's a good one. It's a good one. I'd love to know your opinion. I'm so tickled that Gooch is joining me, man. Yeah, this is so awesome. Feels like every girl's a porn star with an Okay. All right. So I'm going to give One Pride 40 some advice here. Do not date a girl if she has an OnlyFans. So if she has an OnlyFans, just move on to the next one. One Pride 40 is hopefully coming out soon um, with his men's self-development TikTok channel. And when you do, I'm going to sign up for TikTok. So I actually looked it up because I was thinking it was a right tackle, and yeah, and I put right. I was like, I was thinking right tackle, but yeah, I should know. I follow some, not as much, but anyway, I used to follow a lot of it's called red pill content. I've been kind of weaning away from it. I some content. She came in the news big time. She did something. Okay. And my camera's going blurry again. I have no idea. I have no idea why my camera's going blurry, so I apologize for that. So, all right, guys. I think this is going to be a good time to wrap up. Even though I just got Gooch to join me, I'm tickled pink about that. But I kind of wrapping up here. Listen, if you haven't already, please give me a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. I am going live. I'm going to do the Chiefs Jaguars play-by-play. So I suggest that when you watch the game tomorrow, mute your TV, turn on the computer, and listen to me do play-by-play. Also, I'm going to try my best to have my top 10 Super Bowl teams of all time released on Tuesday. It's a lot of work. It may have to come out late. We'll see what happens there. But just to recap my picks, I got Kansas City, but I'm picking and bet on Jacksonville to cover. I like the Eagles, but I like the Giants to cover 7.5. I like the Bills, but of all the games, the Bills one I would kind of lean away from. And I like Dallas. I like Dallas to win outright, but that's a tough one. It's kind of a coin flip. I just feel like I had to pick one upset. I like the way Dallas's offensive line is set up. I think it could offset the 49ers getting pressure with just 4. And if you can handle the pass rush, then I think you can beat them. Because that's exactly what happened with Kansas City. So those are my picks. We'll see how I do. And just make sure that check me out on YouTube tomorrow. I think I do a pretty good job. I've been very lucky to get some people chiming in with some really great comments. So I've been lucky. I don't value. Yeah, I don't either. That's my tip for you men out there. Do not date women with OnlyFans. Alpha. Yeah, exactly. One Pride. The problem is Purdy going to look at. Yeah, I mean that's the thing that. Here's the deal. The Niners offense is actually playing better with Purdy than it was with Jimmy G. The offense is actually improved, but he's still a rookie. And Dallas has a good defensive line. They can put pressure on him. And how is he going to react when he gets hit quite a bit? And he could. And Dan Quinn's an excellent defensive coordinator. So you could see some creative blitz packages in here, which is not what Dallas normally does. That's what's going to be creative. That's what that's what I really want to see. And by the way, if Dak shows up and he's the A+ Dak, they can put up some points, because here's why I like Dallas. That offensive line is very, very good. And if Denver can't put pressure, if San Francisco can't put pressure with just their starting 4, and they may not be able to, that opens things up. Because I hate to tell you this, that secondary, San Francisco secondary is not that good. It's really not. It's offset by having the best front 7 in football. So if you can negate the front 7, you can win. And I can really see that happening. I think Dallas can get it done. I really do. I think that they can go on the road. I think they can run against this team. I think that they'll be able to put up some points, and it's going to come down to a turnover. And who do I like, Dak Prescott, or do I like 7th-round rookie? I like Prescott in this situation. So my apologies there. I just went dark. I apologize. I got a new keyboard, mouse, errors on me. I apologize. I'm wrapping up, but I am so geeked out that Gooch joined me, man. I have to admit I am super geeked out. Don't get me wrong, I love when Keys comes on, but Keys loves to just argue with people. That's his thing. He loves arguing, and I could say the Chiefs wear red. Well, it's actually blue, and it's red. He likes doing that. Gooch is the entertaining one. So I'm tickled pink. Gooch, DM me. I'm wrapping up. If you guys go live, shoot me a DM. I'm gonna try and join. But if nothing else, I'm just gonna wrap up. You got my picks. Please give me a thumbs up. If you're new, first time here, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget, I'm gonna do the Chiefs Jaguars live stream. I'm gonna set it up here shortly, and I'll post it out on social media. So guys, enjoy enjoy the divisional round weekend. Enjoy the divisional round weekend. I'll see y'all back hopefully tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, I'll see you all next Friday.